Today I'm going to teach on a topic that has helped me. And I figured if it has helped me, it's something that can help you. See, everybody has a few words that they live by. Sometimes you see them flashing across their phones or on their computer screens at work. Other times you see a slogan printed on their favorite coffee cup, or on a motivational poster in their office or wherever. And other times those world-changing words are buried just below the surface of our hearts, our minds. And they're able to be pulled up at just the right moment. And this is my mission today, to show you how I work my mind in order to regain my believing edge once I've allowed it to slip. And the closer the words are to the surface of our hearts and minds, the faster we will retrieve them and believe them. Words are powerful. Now, here are some of the first words that entirely changed the earth. Here, Adam, try this. Wasn't it Mary who said to the angel, "You want me to do what?" All kidding aside, what words have changed your lives? Proverbs 18:21 says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life are polar opposites, but both are in our heads. Which words do we allow to dominate determines our success or failure. And Deuteronomy 30:19 says that God gives people the choice between life and death, between feeling blessed and feeling cursed. He follows the question up with the answer, choose life. He just tells you what the answer is. There's an option, life and death, blessing or curse. Here's the hint, choose life. Choose life. We should always choose to have an amazing life. Always choose to be blessed. It's a choice. We've all heard about young men and women recently getting turned by extremist words from the internet. And we were seeing results of it on television. You see, many of these people end up dead because of their word choice. They chose death. Not us. We choose to have a crazy good life. And that's the point of this whole teaching. Let us choose the right words so we can live the life of our choosing. Here's some common quotes that I've seen in people's homes recently. Things that they want to be reminded of. And many of these are words that they live by. Quote, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." Ralph Waldo Emerson. Live, laugh, love. I see that in almost every house. Quote, "A year from now, you may wish you had started today." Karen Lamb. I've decided to be happy. That was written on a plate that somebody gave my wife about a year ago. When you come to a roadblock, take a detour. Mary Kay Ash. One of the people in my networking group was having trouble with her teenage daughter being not so good to her. And so she changed all the passwords in her house to say something like, "I respect mom." So every time the kid logs into anything, "I respect mom." I thought, that's smart. That is smart. And quote, "If there's no struggle, there's no progress." Frederick Douglass. See, no one said life is going to be easy. Just keep plugging, keep moving. But words help us do that. Sometimes just one little comment like these can get you through a bad time. Here's one I see all over the place. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi. I love it. Be the change. Be the change. Laughter. At times we just need a good laugh to help us get out of a stupor. And I recently read some presidential words that didn't change the world, not a one of these, but they sure made me laugh. Quote, the most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Ronald Reagan. I didn't inhale. Bill Clinton. Abraham Lincoln once said while being accused, if I were two-faced, why would I be wearing this one? Herbert Hoover said tongue-in-cheek, blessed are the young, for they shall inherit the national debt. Ronald Reagan also quipped, I've often wondered what the Ten Commandments would have looked like if Moses had run them through the U.S. Congress. Jimmy Carter stated, probably shouldn't have, but he did. He said, I've often wanted to drown my troubles, but I can't get my wife to go swimming. George W. Bush joked, some folks look at me and see a certain swagger, which in Texas we call walking. So those are just some fun little quips that people do. Sometimes you want to see a funny movie or go to a play or hear a comedian. You just got to get out of where your head is. At times we need a little laughter to help us through that tough situation. Happy words help. Proverbs 15:15 says, he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Heap big medicine. A merry heart, a happy heart is like taking medicine. All doctors know that. That's why people bring pets in there, because it makes people happy into hospitals. Or for kids, they'll bring clowns in sometimes. A happy heart doeth good like a medicine. See, excellent words slip into our heads and into our children's heads from the most unusual places. And here's a few sentences from Dr. Seuss. And these are pretty good. These are things that are in your head if your mom ever read Dr. Seuss to you or you ever read it to your kids. Today I shall behave as if this is the day I will be remembered. That's a pretty heavy thing for Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. That's all I'm saying. He also said, why fit in when you were born to stand out? And the last one, today was good, today was fun, tomorrow is another one. I mean, that's the attitude that we want our children to have. Today's great. Tomorrow's going to be great. The next day's going to be great. Every day's going to be wonderful. That's pretty much the attitude of a child. You see these war-torn streets even on TV, and then you see kids playing soccer or doing something, laughing and playing tag. The parents aren't. What happened? What happened? And today I want to show you a few select verses, a few words that have helped me regain my motivation over and over and over again. And these simple thoughts have changed my life by helping me reach my goals and maintain my motivation. And these are my words to live by, which is the title of this teaching. Words to live by. See, I believe that words can motivate, but pure words will dominate. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Didn't Jesus Christ say that? Want to be free? Put the truth on. What words motivate you? What words set your believing free? What words help you dominate? What words ignite you? My words to live by. See, when I feel I've lost my spiritual mojo, which happens at times, when I get to the point that I need to talk myself back into moving ahead, here's what I do. And I hope these inspire you. Now, I'm going to run through this list fast, and these are 5 things that I do every time. First, I remind myself that God is real and will track me down to reward me for my believing. Second, I tell myself I'm absolutely good enough to receive good things from God. Third, I remind myself just how big and how capable God is. Fourth, I tell myself that God is not limited by time or space in order to bless me. And fifth, finally, I remind myself that God will bless me bigger than I can even imagine or believe. So number 1, first I remind myself that God is real and He will track me down to reward me for my believing. In Hebrews 11:6 from the Amplified, but without faith or believing, it is impossible to please and be satisfactory to Him. For whosoever would come near to God must necessarily believe that God exists and that He is the rewarder of those who earnestly and diligently seek Him out. How do you seek God out? If He is not an entity that you somehow can grasp onto, then He'll never be an entity that you'll truly go to. Faith in that verse simply means believing. And I remind myself all the time that believing is nothing more than a conviction so clear, so complete, so mentally tangible that I own it. Believing is owning something. You're sort of taking ownership before you get it. That's believing. See, we're going to read the same verse from another version. Hebrews 11:6 from the Message. It's impossible to please God apart from faith or believing. And why? Because anyone who wants to approach God must believe both that He exists and that He cares enough to respond to those who seek Him. See, we approach God by believing, and He responds with abundance. And here's a couple of quotes I've recently seen that captured my attention. Believe and act as if it were impossible to fail. Charles Kettering. It's impossible to fail. Survival can be summed up in 3 words. Never give up. Bear Grylls. Remember Winston Churchill? Never, ever, 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 ever give up. So the people who make it through a survival situation are not necessarily the best trained. They're always the ones who never, ever give up. To live, we have to have a will to live. To succeed, we have to have a will to succeed. To prosper, we have to have a will to prosper. To be healed, we have to have a will to be healed. God said that He will open the windows of heaven and pour us out a blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it. That's quite a mind picture, He said. Malachi 3:10. Is that how you picture your abundance? Is it just getting by? Or is it, I don't even know where I'm going to keep all this stuff. What's the mind picture? What's the attitude? See, Deuteronomy 28:2 says, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. See, the word blessings can be easily translated from the Hebrew into the word prosperity. All this prosperity shall come upon thee. All this prosperity is going to overtake you. Just hearken to the voice of the Lord. Hang on to those good words. That's all that means. See, as we put the right words in our heads and begin to act on them, all the prosperity of the universe will track us down. It's going to track you down, buddy. You see, what a mind picture, getting hunted down by prosperity. It's stalking you like a cat. You're not going to get away from it. As much as you circle around and try to fool it, it's going to find you. It's going to smell you. It's going to sniff you out, that prosperity. That's the mind picture God wants us to have. You see, and it's going to jump you and give you a prosperity that you don't even have room to handle. That's what he's saying there. So first I remind myself that God does in fact exist, and that he will respond to me with the power of the universe every single time I believe. All good things will track us down when we believe. That's the first thing I do with my mind. Second thing is I tell myself I'm absolutely good enough to receive from God, because sometimes I don't. Think about that thing that you did in the past. You know, and then you go, golly, I just don't feel good enough. And somehow it seems like my positive attitude just sort of leaks out of my head, like I got a little hole there, and I got to work so hard to keep putting good in because it leaks out so fast. Other times it feels like it's been ripped out of my heart or stolen from me. But I remind myself of simple words like Matthew 5:45 says, "For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust." See, God's a giving machine. God's as good to the bad as he is good to the good. I'm going to say that again. God is as good to the bad as he is good to the good. God cannot and will not be bad. All he does is love and do good things. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter to God. The price has already been paid. He loves us. There's a wild thought. The entire universe loves us. You're loved, baby. You are loved. You're a love child. Love, baby. You see, you're loved. You're good enough. You're great. But we got to get over ourselves sometimes. You deserve that abundance. Expect that abundance. Expect that prosperity. Expect that health. You deserve it. The hell with the sins of the father. You know, where your dad did something wrong and you're going to pay. That's not how the whole universe is set up. You stand for yourself. If your parents made mistakes and they died early, doesn't mean you have to. Enough of that foolishness. Oh, my whole family's always been poor, so I'm going to be poor. Stop it! Stop it! You get the point. You see, success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Winston Churchill. That's not easy to do. That's hard to do. But if you study about people who are perpetually happy, they do this. They do not allow anything to break their mood, to shake their mojo, you see, to help them lose their magic. They just feel successful all the time. They're happy all the time. They make themselves happy all the time. Look at these simple songs that are on the radio. One song about happy. Maybe it's called Happy. I don't know. But, it's, there's kids all over the world dancing to that thing and posting on YouTube. It makes people happy because they're hearing happy words. It changes a culture, changes a life. Back in the 80s, what was it? Don't worry, be happy. You see, it's wild, but it's still in your heads. You think about it. I think if God is good always, then we are always good enough. You're always good enough because God is good always. Here's a quote. Every strike brings me closer to the next home run. Babe Ruth. See, that attitude made him the Sultan of SWAT, the king of the home runs, the Babe. Nobody had ever done what he did, and it took years, decades before somebody ever did what he did. He did it before it was popular to do it. He wasn't chasing anybody else's record. He just did it. Every strike takes me closer to the next home run. What about our strikes? When you feel like you're about to hit a home run, you're just about ready to receive. It's that attitude. You're a winner. You're awesome. You're amazing. There's nobody like you in the whole universe. That's pretty cool if we think highly of ourselves. You see, you are right now good enough to receive everything you will ever need. That's the second thing I go to. First, he's big enough. He tracks me down with blessing if I believe. Next, I'm good enough. Even if I wasn't, he's still going to bless me. Third thing, I remind myself just how big and how capable God is. And one of my favorite verses is Isaiah 57:15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity. How big is eternity? That's all space and time, right? That's where God dwells. He is at this very second in time. He's here. He's in this room. He's out there on the street. He's everywhere. He fills this whole earth inside and out. He's all the way in the past, all the way in the future. That's our God who said he can supply all our need. See, he inhabits it. Remember when I told you about that recent scientific discovery that stated that up to 50%, that's half, of all the water on earth predates the earth, our solar system, and our sun? In other words, we're drinking water that was brought from another place and time. How? Why? Because someone or something on this earth needed it, and God made it so. God will do the same for you. He can span all time, the whole universe, to bring you whatever you need. We just limit God so horribly because of our believing. We're so mistrained. It's hard to retrain ourselves. I'm just telling you, these are simple steps, but this is what I have to do every time I want to get my head back. If God supplied our need for that special water, know that he has supplied everything that you will ever need. It has to be there. How do we get ourselves to the point of believing that? Well, it all starts with he exists. Then I just go back down through those steps. I got to always go back to there. Okay, all right, there is a God. And he wants to prosper. He wants to track me down and bless me. But I have to believe. And then I got to keep going through these steps. You see, here's Philippians 4:19 from the God's Word translation. My God will richly fill your every need in a glorious way through Christ Jesus. I love that version, that he will richly fill every one of our needs in a glorious way. That's pretty good. See, T.S. Eliot said, every moment is a fresh beginning. So if you didn't do it yesterday, then start now. Start today. Get started now. God's only limitation is our believing. Isn't that crazy? Our believing's only limitation are the words that we access repeatedly. What do you roll through your head? Makes a difference. Start fresh today. Start fresh right now. Quote, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. George Adair. See, fear is simply a negative chain of thinking that distracts us from our believing. Fear blinds us to abundance. Fear blinds us to abundance. That's all it is. I'm not talking about fear where you're hiding in a closet from the boogeyman. I mean, we live in a world that trains us to fear. We worry about death. We wonder when it's going to happen. We worry if we're going to get sick when the flu hits town. Should I get the shot? Should I not get the shot? We worry about our children. It's just driven. The commercials, they're not positive. And you got to take this if you're getting hot flashes. I saw these. And then it has all these side effects. But if there's vomiting, this and that, and death, then stop taking it. Yeah, duh. I mean, it's crazy. It's just driven on fear. George Eliot said, it's never too late to be what you might have been. It's never too late to be what you might have been. See, we should remind ourselves over and over and over again that God is able to richly fill all our need, even if it requires extraterrestrial supply from a different time. God is not limited, folks. We limit ourselves because we don't think he really exists for us. God exists for you. Imagine the power if we just figure out how to tap into that. The power of all the universe and all time is at our beck and call. We can expect, and even in the Bible, there's some verses where it says demanded of God. Because really, he doesn't care how you talk to him. He's still going to love you. It's our talk is just resetting our belief, and it gets us. Sometimes you go, dang it, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to get that job, right? You make up your mind and you do something. You demand it of yourself. You're going to fulfill this project or do this or that thing. That's the same thing. God's still the one who supplies. So that was the third one. Now, number 4, after that, I tell myself that God is not limited by time. Now, we believe that we're hedged in by time. You might see a gray hair popping out. In my case, all of them. And time keeps on ticking, doesn't it? It just keeps moving. A week goes by, a year goes by. It's like, what happened? I mean, the new millennium. Remember that? That was almost 15 years ago. And it seems like, to most of us, just the other day. 15 years, boom. Talk to your grandma or grandpa if they're still alive. They're going to tell you how fast they feel time goes. You see, time keeps ticking. We feel we never have enough time. See, I think we expend so much of our time and energy just trying to make a living that we never live. You know, Psalm 93 from the Message, that says it about God. It's you've got all the time in the world, whether 1,000 years or a day, it's all the same to you. It's from that one verse, 1,000 years is as a day and a day is as 1,000 years. It doesn't matter to God. He has 1,000 years to help you with your one situation. Imagine if you had a worker that had 1,000 years to accomplish that one task that you've been trying to get him to do. 1,000 years. Imagine if you had 1,000 years to paint one house. Could you do the greatest painting job ever? Yeah, you could do it with a Q-tip if you had 1,000 years. You know, I mean, you could learn how to paint like a master in 1,000 years. Fresco. You know, they'd be hiring you at the Sistine Chapel to renovate that thing. Just think, to God it's nothing. Time is nothing to him. So what are we worried about? God, I better do this now. We get all hyped up about that. Be cool. Relax. God's got all the time in the world to bless you. And I have to keep reminding myself of that when I feel like I have no time. I got to do it now. My wife just told me yesterday, Mark, relax. You know, the good's going to happen when the good's going to happen. It's not up to you. It's up to God. And she had to remind me of this number 4 here. And now from the Message, the same verse, 2 Peter 3:8. Don't overlook the obvious here, friends. With God, one day is as good as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. This really blessed me when I read this recently. When asked what surprised him the most about mankind, the Dalai Lama said, quote, he sacrifices his health in order to make money. And then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never to die, and then he dies having never really lived. End of quote. It's a pretty wise observation of mankind. You know, God has all the time in the world to locate and to get us what we need so that we can enjoy our lives right now. Expect abundance. You might just get it. Expect abundance. God has the time to supply it. So that was the 4th thing. Now the final thing, number 5, that I remind myself of is that God will bless me bigger than I can even imagine or believe. God can bless me bigger than I can even imagine or believe. You know, it's readily available to have more than our hearts can wish. We can even have more than we can believe for, which is an impossibility. Right? People say, well, you can only be blessed according to your believing. I say that stuff. But in truth, you can have more than you can believe for. More than you can believe for. Ephesians 3:20, King James, you know that verse. Now unto him that's able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. If you can just figure out how to tap into that Spirit of God thing that every Christian has, but doesn't know how to use. It's like that one tool in your garage. It's like, or it was left there from the prior owner. It's like, what is this? What do they do with that? It's the Spirit of God. If you can learn to utilize that in addition to your believing, you'll have more than heart can wish. You'll have more than you can believe for, more than you can even think. That's a pretty good promise. We should expect to see more abundance than we even expect. From the Message, God can do anything, I like how they make it casual like that. God can do anything, Far more than you could ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. He does it not by pushing us around, but by working within us, His Spirit deeply and gently within us. Sometimes we need to be guided to our abundance. God knows where every dime is, every dollar, every lost dollar, every piece of gold, every diamond that somebody dropped on a playing field. He knows where every lost contact lens is. He knows everything. Jimmy Johnson said, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. Football coach. Here's from the New International Version, same verse, Ephesians 3:20. Now unto him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that's at work within us. Here's what Helen Keller said. You know who Helen Keller is, right? Wasn't she born blind and did amazing things? She said, quote, keep your face to the sunshine and you can never see the shadow. Keep your head in the sun. UNNON. Here's Ephesians 3:20 from The Voice. Not the show. Now to the God who can do so many awe-inspiring things, immeasurable things greater than we could ever ask or imagine through the power at work in us. Wasn't Ephesians written when Paul was in prison? This is how he thought. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I'm in a bad spot, but good's on its way. It's hunting me down, baby. That's how Paul thought. These are the things that motivate me. These are the high thoughts I choose to think when I'm feeling low on believing, when my tank is getting low. You see, this is my progression of thinking. First, I remind myself that God is real and will track me down to reward me for believing. Second, I tell myself I'm absolutely good enough to receive good things from God. Third, I remind myself just how big and how capable God is. Fourth, after that, I tell myself that God's not limited by time or space. And 5, I remind myself that God will bless me bigger than I can even imagine or believe if I just believe. You see, this is what helps me. What words and what truths motivate you? Maybe figure your progression of thinking that have helped you get the things that you've gotten. We all have them. I see them on people's houses every day. I'm out working. People always have stuff on their refrigerators, in their bathrooms, in their bedrooms, these posters and these little plaques that they buy. Everybody wants to motivate themselves to be positive and to receive positive. We all know this today. See, what gets you to the point you can expect and accept God's abundance? What outside stimuli gets you walking with that Texas swagger? You see, at times we need a good laugh. Maybe you just need to pet a dog. You see, maybe you need to go for a walk or for a jog or go to the gym. Go do some yoga. Maybe you need to do something to get your mind off of that situation. But what really makes things happen consistently and efficiently, what causes prosperity of all types to track us down, are the positive words that come from God, directly or indirectly. See, excellent words bring exceptional results. Words pregnant with truth will set us free. Those are the words I live by. God bless.